Hi, good afternoon. It's very exciting. Thursday afternoon, 11th reInvent. This is my 6th one. And what an exciting show it has been. Lots of announcements, customers across the board, across industries. And it has been very exciting to learn and share what we have been doing at AWS. In this session is a special one where we will be sharing what we have been doing with TELUS, a Canadian operator, over the last 2 years. And we have not just going to talk about what we are conceiving, we will be talking about the requirements as we understand them from customers, the joint vision of the product that we have, along with talking about how we see the tech actually coming to life with a real-life implementation demo. Assuming the demo works with us, that would be what we will be doing in the next 45 minutes or so. Let me go ahead and introduce my team here. My name is Robin Harwani. I lead the technology solutions within the Telecom IBU at AWS. And I have with me Dwayne and Amit, if you want to come over.
Thank you, Robin.
Dwayne Bayfield runs the entertainment as well as the home business at TELUS. Dwayne, do you want to just introduce yourself? And then Amit?
Sure. As Robin mentioned, Dwayne Benefield. I've been at TELUS about 2 years now, running the connected home and entertainment business, which includes a few TV services, our SmartHome security, online security, and our home internet portfolio.
Hi, and Amit Nag. I run our entertainment businesses, so product and content, as well as enablement, our tool sets that connect and enable most of our workforce.
Thank you. Dwayne and Amit, really refreshing vision. And I also want to introduce my colleague, Mo Zulfagari, who's been with us and has been working behind this technology as the visionary. Mo, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My absolute pleasure to be with you. I'm Mo Zulfagari, and I'm the worldwide technology lead for AWS Telecom. Thank you.
We call him the professor.
Awesome. Awesome. So that's the crew. We'll have lots of stuff. I'm going to introduce first our partner in this journey, which has been, over the last 2 years, an amazing effort to reimagine, as we call, reimagining the home. TELUS is not just an operator. Actually, we can hardly call them an operator. They are the fastest growing telecom company in Canada. They have businesses across mobility, TV, internet, as well as redefining industries across agriculture, health, and most importantly, home, that we will be talking about as well. TELUS also thrives on a unique vision that they have created related to digital life, as they call it. And one of the key aspects of it is how to transform the home experience along with automation and some ubiquity that we will talk about as we go. Why don't I let Dwayne and Amit share the vision as they started with over the last 16, 18 months ago, and they defined it, and then we started the journey together of going ahead and starting the implementation around it, the architecting of the solution on AWS. So Amit, Dwayne, over to you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. So maybe I wanted to start with kind of framing the opportunity, the underlying consumer pain point, and frankly, industry pain point that is becoming felt more widely. Right, as we have felt in Canada, and frankly, most of you have probably been seeing, there's been an absolute explosion of connected services, be it OTT streaming services. 80% of Canadians use one. Most of those Canadians actually are now using 3 or more of them. Smart home services and devices, and just name your gaming, music, fitness, wellness, health. There's an absolute explosion of these services creating amazing consumer experiences, but with it, some challenges, right? There is increasing fragmentation, frustration from consumers, but also from the industry. It's becoming harder to be heard in a more noisy and crowded market. It's becoming harder to retain customers, to care for customers, and do that in a cost-effective way. Now, of course, how do you solve that? If you look in the image here below, there's a whole bunch of device platform companies who have been doing amazing things to unify and create experiences to manage this, particularly the mobile platforms and the connected TV platforms. But from what we see, there are very few homes that have just purely a single flavor of just one platform. Most homes tend to have two, sometimes more platforms, and this creates a very fragmented ecosystem. The one thing that every home has in common is that they have one connectivity provider. That bill that you pay is a foundational bill that you need before you can access any of these services. The orchestration ability and the position in the home that the CSP inhabits creates a unique opportunity. And nowhere is that opportunity or that need more felt, I would say, than in the smart home. Right? And Dwayne can tell you a little bit more about that.
Sure. So the fact that most of you are here, or those of you are watching online, leads me to believe you're, tech-friendly, early adopters. And so you're comfortable configuring devices, setting up automation routines. You probably even have like 20 plus apps on your phone to manage all your smart devices like I do. In fact, I just added one for my tankless water heater. But that's not scalable. And that certainly doesn't deliver on the promise of a smart home. In fact, most people would say that's actually still quite dumb. And so, with 50% of homes in North America projected to have smart devices in the next year, the problem is only compounding. Consumers today are spending on average 2.5 hours troubleshooting issues with their smart home. And for those of us that manage customer service teams, that's not cheap, and it's certainly not good for the customer either. So what are we doing about it? So together with AWS, TELUS is going to reinvent the smart home in a way that delivers a new platform, leveraging new technologies to finally deliver consumers a simple, an affordable, and an enriching experience for their home solution. And so how are we going to do that? What are we doing? So first of all, we're going to break down the barriers of the walled garden in a truly device-agnostic solution. Next, we're going to ensure that those customers that have already invested in smart home, they've got devices in the home or they're getting some for Christmas, they have them on their wish list, that they all just easily attach to your smart home solution. And lastly, we're going to unify all that into a single interface that enables the customer to manage, control, change settings all through one app, or the voice assistant of your choice. To do so, we're leveraging a couple new technologies. The first is zero touch. So zero touch basically, I guess she likes to zero touch. Zero touch effectively is that kind of new tool that allows plug and play device attachment to your smart home solution. So you can easily just add it without a bunch of configuration steps. And it does so regardless of communication protocol. The next technology we're really going to lean into is ubiquitous control. And so that is basically what it does. It ubiquitously controls the major third-party device ecosystems all through that single interface. So again, you can manage settings, add profiles, optimize all through that interface. And as a CSP, and for those of you out here that have other services, this platform is going to enable even more unique experiences that can truly provide value to customers. For example, we have a TV service that Amit manages, and we're going to ensure that our smart home cameras are linked in such a way that when, say, Amit shows up at my door and my Ring doorbell goes off and I'm watching a big game on TV, I'll get a pop-up in my screen that says, hey, Amit's at the front door, and I can let him in with my TV remote, or just say, let Amit in. So those are kind of the experiences that we're going to be able to evolve in a way with this new platform. Next slide. And so, what's a day in the life of a consumer look like? So I'm going to start with that little tiny box you probably may or may not see in front of the garage door there. That's basically a new Amazon box just arrived. And inside is a Philips Hue light bulb, right? Battery operated. What's great about this is open the box, and my son could do this, my 8-year-old son, turn it on, comes on, and all of a sudden I get a notification on my phone, hey, you have a new connected device. Would you like to add it to your smart home? Sure, click yes. Want to add it to one of your rooms? Sure, son's room. How about automation routine, like turn it off when he leaves the room? Yeah, good idea, click, right? So that's an example of how the zero touch can easily work with a lot of devices. So later in the day, you're coming home, and in your connected car, you arrive home, garage automatically opens, your alarm system is disarmed, and the temperature in the house, knowing it's you that came home, is set to your preference. Then later in the day, big game's on, right? And so your voice assistant, hey, Dwayne, big game's on in 5 minutes. At that point, I can say, yes, I'd like to watch. Lights dim, blinds go down, TV turns on, and I'm watching TV. All right, time for bed. I just say, hey, turn my whole system off, turns off, and I can activate energy savings mode so that I can actually save while I sleep. So that can all be done through a single interface, either on your app or through the voice assistant of your choice. So the last thing we're really ensuring happens, especially for our partners and for us, is that we kind of also transform the way smart home is sold. Today, most people's customers' journeys starts with buying devices that are attached to a relatively generic security program. But where we're moving towards is where consumers can now buy solutions. They can buy services that really address customer needs, wants, desires, things like hazard monitoring. I just want that peace of mind. I actually want security. Or maybe I want to lean into energy management because I really am concerned about saving energy and saving the planet. And again, this platform will enable that to happen in a way that we are architecting it such that the foundational blocks can be mixed and matched to a local market. So you can actually determine whether it's a market in Europe or Africa, you can actually build it such that the solutions and the offers that you would provide customers are truly differentiated, provide a lot of the technology that we just discussed and a lot of the features and functionality, but in a way that's localized to the market and is affordable and can scale. So with that.
All right, so the big question is how are we making this happen, right? So I'll give you a high level of what we have been building, and then Robin's going to give you more of the detail of the specific components. So at the highest level, what we've built is a set of modular and reusable components, right? Starting from the top, we're building applications and components that enable applications for mobile, web, 10-foot, built on a foundation of middleware that we're building in collaboration with AWS, built on essentially TELUS's experience as being a leading smart home and automation provider. The idea with all of these is to make them reusable in a way that can be utilized by other CSPs or other interested parties down the road. Of course, all of this is built on the core of the AWS cloud services and essentially building a very scalable platform that might be migrated to multiple locations and scenarios. We are going to be leveraging, of course, AWS IoT Core, Kinesis Video, and some of the new functionalities that Dwayne just talked about. And most importantly, building the momentum here, not just with us and AWS, but other interested parties, to start building a level of integration with the huge ecosystem of first, second, and third-party devices, which really drives the value for the consumer at the end of the day. So with that, probably hand over to Robin to give us some insight.
Yes, thank you. I mean, as you heard the vision here, when we started as AWS team listening to the vision that the TELUS team laid out, the three problems that they anchored was, we want to make sure everything works with everything. We want to make sure there is convenience, there is safety for a human, as well as there is simplicity for anybody to use the home, with many, many different device ecosystems that have to operate together. And we started to imagine what that customer experience would look like. So when a device arrives today, before this solution, it is provisioned in the back end, it is manually configured, then you have an installation and connection process for it going into that device becoming onboarded into the home. After this, you have local management of that device, and then there is no interoperability. That means that my Honeywell thermostat in my home does not integrate with the rest of my devices, and that is frustrating. And then there is no integrability across different applications either. That's the customer experience as we tried to analyze when we started. What we said, here is how we will change that. We believe the way we would do that is we would have the ability to create a zero-touch experience on the devices across make, manufacturer, protocols, and the chipsets. Second thing we talked about was having the ability to control these devices from a unified control plane. And to kind of put this into perspective, there's 13.8 million homes in Canada. And each home, assuming there are just 10 devices, some of us have 70, 100, 200 devices, but assuming there are just 10 devices per home in these 13.8 million homes, we are talking about saving by 1 minute per device, 1,200 years. That's the magnitude of problem that we set out to solve. Thus, The second thing we set out to solve was to having the ability to control these devices across the ecosystem. And that in itself was a huge two problem statements. When you think about that translating into an AWS architecture, this is how the world looks like and maps to the chart that Amit shared in the 4 layers in the legend that you see. At the very bottom, you have devices, cameras, thermostats, locks, smart bulbs, lights, curtains that are in your home that you expect to interoperate, integrate, but today are siloed. Every single one of these comes with its own app. You are provisioning them separately, managing them separately, and then living with the pain of hundreds and hundreds of different apps on your phones. The second is the layer which you see, the cloud, the AWS cloud. Here, we thought about AWS IoT Core being the engine, AWS IoT Events, Kinesis video stream to interact with the video cameras in your home, FreeRTOS on the device firmware side, Greengrass on the home hub side, as well as ubiquitous control and zero touch like Dwayne just explained. About that, you have the purple boxes that you see. That is the TELUS middleware. This TELUS middleware is what allows for us to integrate seamlessly to the TELUS subscribers, and it's a reusable asset that TELUS is creating for other operators. Like you may have heard Adolfo today speak about from the telcos for the telcos, right? Nobody can do it better in terms of building a technology solution that operates for the telco unless it's were built within telco. And TELUS has been serving close to 800,000 homes. It's the fastest growing smart home solution provider in Canada. So this middleware becomes an asset for everybody. And on top of that, there is smart apps. Now I'm going to invite Mosel Fagari, my colleague, to jump in as we go into this. In the next step, we thought about then translating this further into which devices, what do we need? So as you look at the little home that we are creating, each home has a home hub, has all these devices, and then you have the cloud. And as you look at this, when you try to map it to the AWS architecture, it's FreeRTOS that enables the control and real-time operating systems functionality that extends IoT into your home. Then you have the Greengrass solution that you can deploy on the hub for having the functionality that you can provide extension of IoT itself within the home. And then you have IoT suite in the cloud, Kinesis video stream, and different infrastructure as a service elements. Mo, you want to take this? And
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thanks a lot. So as Robin mentioned, we are providing 200+ services in AWS Cloud to enable the telcos, CSPs, to go up the value chain, go from the customer, go from being a communication service provider, CSPs, towards the digitization transformation, and that's being digital service provider, DSP. And one of them is a SmartHome, and this is the very high-level snapshot of the smart home services and those services that enabling the smart home. So you can see number of devices can be onboarded on the FreeRTOS, and they can even actually run AWS IoT Greengrass. On the next slide, I'll explain and go a little bit more deep dive on that. But there are a number of IoT services on AWS that you can leverage to provide the connectivity for the information brokers, for device management, for the security of these devices. And then there are a number of other services you can leverage to create machine learning and bring intelligence on top of these data and create value added on top of the data. So all of these then could be passed to mobile applications, dashboards, and we are enabling the telcos to build those applications on top of AWS as well. And one example, smart home with machine learning at the edge is where you have a camera, and that camera can actually run a AWS IoT Greengrass on top of that, and the data from the camera can actually post it to the IoT core, where there is an IoT rule which is listening to this data from the camera and then passes it to the Amazon Kinesis data firehouse, so we can actually store these data into the Amazon S3 databases. And these are the training data which are then pushed into the SageMaker, where you can create, build, and train the data models for these ML functions that could be very constrained in a way that literally 1/10 of the memory footprint of these constrained devices can be used. And we are talking about the cameras, so we're not talking about the universal customer premises equipment. That's why cloud become really important. The generated model, the trained model, then can be pushed back to the another S3 where we keep this trained model, and it loops back the IoT core, where it can actually goes back all the way to the camera, and then the trained model can actually trigger the Lambda function, and then you can have real edge analytics and save bandwidth, save costs, and actually do it much quicker. Obviously, there are Amazon Kinesis. Video streams, KVS services that you can leverage to pass the stream of the data into mobile applications, and user can actually look at them. So that was one example, very generic example, that how you can leverage the end-to-end AWS IoT ecosystem to enable actually a constrained device to do sophisticated machine learning and edge analytics. If you go one step back, then we have the telemetry reference architecture for the smart homes. And this is where we have number of devices which can use AWS IoT device SDKs that we provide, and they can run on FreeRTOS. They can actually leverage MQTT to push back the data directly to the IoT hub, and they can, in other way, push the data into the Greengrass, and that Greengrass may run on the CSPs home hubs. And there are two ways to actually capture the data all the way back to cloud into AWS IoT Core, where in this reference architecture, we have two IoT rules. One for the data and the data path, which actually collects the data and then only let the meaningful data to pass the filter and goes to the Amazon DynamoDB, where we store them. Or it could be another IoT rule where it filters the events. For example, a motion has been detected or something like this. And we have AWS IoT event service where you can leverage to handle this kind of events. And you can use then Amazon Simple Notification Services, SNS, to act on top of these events. Send a notification to your app, text message, email, whatever it is. And obviously, like the previous slide, the users can use the number of other services to interact with the system from their apps. In this case, Amazon API Gateway, where they can actually interact with the IoT Core through a Lambda function or set of Lambda functions. And also, you can actually use Amazon QuickSights and AWS IoT Analytics, where you can actually bring visual analytics on top of the data off the shelf. Why we actually presented this to you? Because we're making it super simple for the customers to have the shorter go-to-market and innovate on top of the undifferentiated heavy lifting services that we do for our customers. But I'm not a slide man, so that's why I came, like always, with a trolley of devices. And we built the smart home here in 10 minutes. And I'm going to talk about how it works in reality. And the problem we have here, as everyone on the stage actually mentioned, we are dealing with number of manufacturers, number of devices, protocols, and ecosystems, different subscriptions. And bear in mind that the heterogeneous IoT is not scalable based on the example and the number of years of manual effort that Robin gave you. And we are here to bring the bar down and enable TELUS and other CSPs to create a justifiable business case on top of the IoT by enabling them to scaling up the IoT. So I'm going to switch back to my iPad, hopefully. Awesome. So these are the number of apps that we just installed in the last few days to just give you this demo. And my home is probably 300 devices and so many apps. And that's the main problem I had at home. And that's the main problem that our customers have at home as well. So what we created is we created one dashboard. And it's not only a dashboard. It's a single pane of glass where for human-readable and machine-readable communication, where you can have single APIs to talk to all the ecosystems of devices, and also one place, one app to control everything. Welcome to TELUS SmartHome 2.0 application. This is a demo app which shows you that how you can actually have number of ecosystem devices and how they work together. On the left-hand side, you can see there are different rooms. So I have one app. It could be on my iPad, on the browser, on my phone. It's a TELUS SmartHome 2.0 app, and I can see my cameras from different vendors. Doesn't matter which one it is, and I can see all the lights, all the sensors in one place. I can create routines here. I can see the live videos. I can even play a stream on any of my ecosystem devices, and I can see what is playing where. In this case, actually, we have a radio playing here. So, and then I have a number of users here, and you can actually allocate devices to these users, and you can use number of mechanisms to detect if Mo is home, if Mo is in the living room, if Mo and Nima left the home, and based on that, you can actually create automation. And here, I'll have a good example here. Always, I'm telling my customers. So me and my missus are in constant fight about temperature at home. She's living on 18 degrees centigrade. I cannot do below 22. I'm from desert. So when I'm downstairs, temperature goes up to 22. When she's downstairs, I'm not home, it goes to 18. When both of us are home, then it goes to in the middle to 20. That's why it's important to collect the data in one place and create automation there. Because we are not talking about automation here. We are talking about the autonomous operation. And what is autonomous operation? The autonomous operation is that when user says, I want, and in my case, I want 22 degree, and my missus want 18 degree. And when we are there, we agreed on 20. So that's something you don't want in your home. And it's important to create the experience for the user based on what they want. And that's what TELUS is doing, enabling their customers with fully autonomous operations based on these services, which is AWS providing. So I'll start the demo with help of Robin. So we have a number of devices here. We have a lovely small door. No, just not you. Okay, you did it. So
someone is at the front door.
Robin is at the door. I'm not home. He pressed the door, and I can now ask Alexa, open the front door lock. Alexa, open the front door lock.
What's your voice code for front door lock?
0000.
There you go.
Unlocking. Hang on.
And the door is unlocked. And if you notice here, so you have a dashboard on the, if you look at the screen, so we can actually see the door here, and so it shows the status of the door, and you have the digital twin of the door here as well, which shows the status, and you can interact with that. And that's where you can control your home in one ecosystem. But the problem is, I don't know if you noticed or not, just what happened. So number of devices work together to make this happen. And I'll give you more example. So when I open the door and let Robin in.
Front door lock isn't responding.
So then the lights turned on, and we have a curtain which works underneath, and we have the robot actually turn on to try to detect and welcome you at the front door. And we have devices like Philips Hue lights. We have like Wise locks. We have Nest cameras, Ring doorbells, and it's not only that. So when Robin left the room, robot is not happy, and we cannot get it operated because we have a stage that it may fall. But the lights are off automatically, and the curtain is closed, if you could hear it down there. But more importantly, you can see that the door is left open. And it's always me. Robin.
I do that.
It's always Robin. So then I may be in a room, or I may use on my app on a different voice ecosystem. Now I can say, hey Google, lock the front door lock.
Got it. Locking the front door lock.
There you go. So you have witnessed that AWS opened the ecosystem to everyone. So you have witnessed that everything works with everything. And this is the beginning of the journey for us. This is where we can actually work with the OEM, ODMs, and CSPs like TELUS to make this much, much more a stronger platform. So in this case now, go on, please.
What is unique here is in the last 3 minutes, you observed the same function if you had to do on your phone. You would have used 6 different applications.
Yes.
And all of it was done using just voice commands across so many different manufacturers, makes, protocols, and chipsets. That was the product vision. Right? Go ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this time I'm home, and so
someone is at the front door.
And the door unlocked automatically. That was the slide I showed you previously. So on the trigger of the doorbell, this camera took the picture of my face, sent it back to cloud, one picture, not the video, and then analyze it against only one picture that I loaded to my app, not hundreds of pictures that I trained my ML model with. And Amazon Recognition service actually gave me the percentage of the similarity between these two. And that was where, with the accuracy of above, for example, 85%, and you can configure it, it sent the command to a Wise ecosystem to open the door for me. And
the camera isn't responding.
yes, because it's looking up. So I'm home. This time, because I'm home, it comes and welcomes me, and it's happy. So this robot can actually go around, start patrolling the house, find intrusion detection, and I'm sure I will add Robin's face there later on. But this is the most challenging moment of the demo. So I have a new device, and I bought it from anywhere, Best Buy, anywhere. I brought it home, and I'm trying to add it to the ecosystem that already exists, correct? And so till now, let me recap. We were witnessing that how different devices within different ecosystems with different voice assistant all work together. And now we are, let me bring back the dashboard. And now actually we are talking about bringing a new device. And to be perfectly honest with you, this is not a new device because we have onboarded it probably 200 times. But I think we successfully resetted it back to the normal. There is a chance actually it doesn't pick it up because we have done it too many times, but let's try. It works most of the time. So Alexa, discover new devices.
Starting discovery. This will take a few moments.
All I do is to remove
Power
this
on your
label.
new devices now, and if needed, put them in pairing mode.
This device actually is on the pairing mode. It's blinking green and red. And there you go. So it has been detected by Discovery SDKs running on this Echo device. This Discovery system actually looking for Zigbee, BLE, and Wi-Fi devices. Later on, we can extend it, and we are extending it to Matter as well, and then automatically adds it to your ecosystem. You may be wondering actually why I'm filling the gap, because it's doing all of those protocols and then going around.
First motion sensor.
There you go.
To set up a routine triggered by first motion sensor, go to the device detail page in the Alexa app.
And you thought actually we're finished. No. Alexa, change the name of first motion sensor to kitchen sensor.
I couldn't find anything named first motion sensor.
Oops.
Which item do you want?
First motion sensor.
I couldn't find anything with that name. Please go to the Alexa app.
So the reason actually is, as I mentioned, we have onboarded it 200 times, probably is already in the ecosystem. But you can actually rename the device when you bring it home. And you can say, Alexa, add first motion sensor to the living room.
I couldn't find any device named first motion sensor. Which one do you want?
So you can actually ask Alexa to add this sensor to your living room, and then you can say, Alexa, when I left home, or I actually say bye, or I am not in the living room, turn on the lights. And that's where brings the truly zero-touch experience for the users. Not only onboarding of the devices, renaming the device, adding to the group, creating a routine, fully zero-touch. And I always say that again to my customers, that if they ask me, what are you doing? I'm saying that I'm changing the technology in a way that my mom can use the smart homes. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mo. So you might be wondering, Mo and the team have been super busy getting all of this to work, and every day the scope of what's compatible and what's functional is growing. You may be wondering what's next. So just to give you all a sense for the timeline on which this product is coming to market, we've been hard at work. We're continuing to work on the development. One of the reasons we're here is we're starting to engage with other potential partners to understand where there may be interest, be it on the CSP side, be it on the device side, to start building this ecosystem out further. You will see the first market launch happen next year, right? And start to scale this and see actual consumer adoption of this solution, which is we're super excited about. At that time, we will also start planning with a select set of the first wave of global partners to get further markets launched. And then you should see in 2024 and onwards that this becomes available on a broader basis. You'll have the global go-to-market launches across many territories. The first wave of market partners should be in market at the time. And most importantly, the whole stack that we talked about should become available as a solution in the AWS marketplace. So we're very excited about that and looking forward to that. If we talk about what is in it for many of you who are here, first, if you are a manufacturer or if you are essentially representing connected devices, we think this is super exciting because as a CSP, we are incredibly interested in making sure we can make it as easy and to drive adoption of these devices into the homes. So this is an incredible opportunity to work with us to get devices into these homes and to do it in a way that makes it truly frictionless and to, as you saw here, to drive actual uptake with most of our customer base. And third, we're setting up what is essentially a low cost of integration global distribution channel between CSPs like TELUS as well as other participants in the ecosystem.
All right. And the second vector here, like Amit mentioned, is the operators themselves. Operators are going to play an important role when it comes to defining how this ecosystem grows across countries and across different continents as the work that we are doing, we take it globally. And here, the idea is to enable the operator ecosystem with a cutting edge differentiation. If you have fiber to 10, 15 million homes, you have the ability to touch these customers more deeply with unique experiences. That's the second most important vector when you think about the CSP space. You also can leverage the 2 years of work that we have been doing since 2021. You have the ability to create a platform leveraging the CSP space for the same middleware that TELUS is developing to integrate from all the way from the network layer, provisioning of networks, billing to the customers, the UX layer. All of that middleware can then be used by the operators. And that's what we call the power of built by CSPs for the CSPs. Ability to construct profitable market value and propositions which are extensible and provide extensibility across. And finally, if you are a customer of this home, I would let Dwayne speak to it and share how they will benefit it. Because there's a special term that he invented as we were working on this.
And I have to use that term?
Yes.
I'm going to end the presentation on this slide and end it where it all began. Over a year ago here with the AWS team to really think about how can we develop an innovative, disruptive, smart home solution that just works, right? That's what consumers want. They just want it to work. And so it started with that vision, and it has evolved into what you're seeing here today. And again, as Amit mentioned, we'll be deploying the first market launch next year. But like Mo, I basically, have been frustrated over the last several years because as an early adopter myself, I've proliferated connected homes across my friends, my parents, and I'm now the tech solutionist. Like I get the phone calls when something doesn't work. And so my parents are so bad that everything they have is Alexa enabled because that was the only way they were going to control it. But God forbid Alexa doesn't understand a command, I get the phone call. So that is something we're trying to ensure is solvable and so it can scale across every household, be it in the US and Canada or anywhere in Europe, Middle East, Africa. So really excited about bringing this solution globally to the ever-growing opportunity that exists in the smart home world. So, I'm going to end with, the last piece here is I like the term wow, because, when, what I saw, what Mo has built here, and we showed it to our president, that was the term, like, wow, like jaw-dropping moments, like this actually could unlock so much opportunity and potential. And so together with AWS, TELUS is going to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.